Hey everybody, this is the Marine. In the last episode of How to Stay Warm in the Wintertime, we looked at the layering system and how each layer functions. In this video, we're going to look at how to use it as your personal thermostat and also to regulate your heat of comfort by slipping layers on and off as your activity level or the weather changes. Now what we're going to do is to take the winter layering system and to break it down to two levels. The first one is high physically active level, be hiking, snowshoeing or skiing. And the second one would be low to very low physically active level, and that would be camping or sitting by the fire or ice fishing or doing an activity where you're not moving in the cold weather. Now when you're doing an activity in the wintertime that requires a high physically active level, it is very important, you guys, to stay dry. And to accomplish this, you have to regulate your body temperature. What we're going to do right now is look at the different layers and how to regulate that body heat. Now before I put on my base layer bottoms, I like to use a pair of synthetic underwear. Synthetic underwear like these ex officio boxer shorts are breathable, moisture wicking, odor reducing, anti-funk, which will help keep you dry. You guys, you don't want to use cotton. Cotton is soft, lightweight, it's breathable, it soaks up sweat, allowing heat to escape your body to keep you cool during the summertime. But in the wintertime, when cotton is wet, it will absorb and retain that moisture, which will rob heat from your body. Now before we talk about wearing a base layer for a high physical activity, I'd like to share with you a piece of information I learned this fall. Bear Paulson, which is a general manager at North Star Canoe, and he's also a winter camping instructor. And over the years, he's taken many men and women out winter camping, and each year he takes multiple groups of high school kids out winter camping. He told me over the years he noticed that women get cold behind their legs and their upper thighs, where men tend to get cold in their lower midsection. So if you're a man and you're going to go skiing, hiking, or snowshoeing, don't put on those base layer bottoms, because if you're out there and you get hot and you want to change them, you got to take off your boots, and then you got to try to stand without getting your socks wet, and that really can be a pain. But ladies, always wear the base layer bottoms. Now over your base layer, you want to wear an outer layer, which would be a pair of pants, trousers, and you want them breathable, durable, wind resistant, weather resistant, and also water resistant, because you never know when you're going to be kneeling or sitting in the snow. Over the years, I've been using these outdoor research circ pants that are very comfortable because they have a movement mirroring stretch. Now if it happens to be raining or very wet, you may want to consider some type of rain pants. Now for the upper body, when you're doing a high physical activity, you want to start off with a base layer that's either synthetic or merino wool. Then the middle layer should be either wool or fleece. And again, like I said in the earlier episode, I prefer fleece because it's inexpensive, breathable, cozy, warm, and I recommend that you get one that has a front zipper, not a pullover. They're easier to put on and take off. The main reason is to regulate your body heat, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and you may want to consider one with a chest pocket, especially when you're camping, by providing warm body heat inside that outer layer, which will prevent the batteries, lighters, or cell phone or anything else from freezing. Now for the outer layer or shell, if the conditions are wet or it's freezing rain or it's very windy, a rain jacket or a waterproof shell would work really great. If the temperatures ain't that cold, you can also use a fleece jacket. Now you can use a down jacket for an outer layer. I just don't care to use them because if they get wet, the down is useless. And when I'm hiking through the woods, the sticks and branches may catch on there and tear it. Now when the temperatures are extremely cold, you may want to use a heavy ski jacket or a mountaineering jacket. Now when you're looking for an outer layer, I really suggest that you get an outer layer with those pit zips on them, which will help regulate the heat and they'll become more efficient. Now when you're hiking or skiing or snowshoeing and you start getting warm, you want to start regulating the heat. And the first thing, if you have a scarf or a neck gaiter, you want to take that off first. And then kind of loosen up the hat too. I'd like to loosen this hat up and get some air, because heat will rise, and you want to open this up and let some heat escape from your body and on your head too. Now before you take off a layer, what I like to do is open up those layers. I'll open the first layer, then I'll open up the second layer, and I have another layer because it's very cold, another mid layer, and I'll open that up to my base layer, and I'll hike like this. And then once I start overheating again, I'll regulate by taking the first layer off. So I can use this light fleece jacket for an outer layer. But when I start getting hot again, then I'll take that layer off. Now my mid layer is this lightweight fleece shirt. If I continue to get warm, I'll also take this off, and I'll hike with my base layer top. It is important to remove layers when you're moving, but when you stop to take a break or to eat, you want a layer readily available to put on before, not when you get cold. Now, if you're going to do an activity in the wintertime that requires a low to very low physical active level, or after hiking, you come to that destination where your camp is, you want to start adding clothing after you start cooling down. The first thing I like to do is take off my boots and put on a pair of camp boots. And if you don't have camp boots, you can put on a thick pair of dry socks. And while your boots are off, then I'll put my long underwear bottoms if I don't have them on. Then, depending on the weather conditions or the temperatures, I'll either take my hiking pants and put them back over the bottom base layers, or if the weather is extremely cold, I'll take a pair of fleece pants, put them over my bottom base layers, and then either put my hiking pants back on, but if the weather conditions are damp or wet, then I'll put on a pair of rain pants. Now when the temperatures are extremely low, and we're talking below zero or below -17 Celsius, which people wouldn't even think about going out, an outer layer made of wool, a pair of wool pants will keep you nice and toasty warm in those frigid cold temperatures. Now these wool pants belong to my grandfather, who was born in 1898, and I believe that they're 70 or 80 years old, and they're so well made that I know my grandchildren would be wearing these. And they're so big. My grandpa was a huge man, so lucky for me that these will fit over multiple layers. Wool pants can be very expensive, but you can find them for a good price at a military outlet or a thrift or used clothes store, or even better, if you can find a yard sale or a garage sale, you can really score on those little gems. If you go to purchase one, make sure you have the under layers, base layer and mid layer, or just a base layer, and try them on and make sure they're loose fitting. And if you don't, just get them a few size up, a little bit larger. Now for the top part of my body, after I put my base layer on, I like to use multiple mid layers. I'll start off with a light fleece shirt, and over that I'll put a light fleece jacket. And if it gets really cold, I'm in camp, then I'll put on a down vest. And then over that I'll put a shell that's waterproof or windproof. And that works really well for me. Now there's 3 outer layers I like to use, and it depends on the weather condition. And the first one is an uninsulated shell. It could be a rain jacket, something that's windproof. Now my favorite outer layer when I'm in camp is this Leicester River Wool Boreal shirt. This thing is so well made, it's gonna last generations. Just like I'm wearing my grandpa's wool pants, my grandkids will be wearing this. Wool being naturally flame retardant, antibacterial, it resists dirt and oil, and it also retains heat when it gets wet, and that's really important. But it also will wick away sweat or moisture, regulate your own personal environment inside here. Now I recommend that you don't hike with this because there's no zipper to regulate the heat, and this thing just traps the heat in there and it's so warm. But this is a great camp outer layer. Now when the temperatures are extremely cold, what I like to use is a mountaineering jacket or a ski jacket. These will keep you really warm in those extreme cold temperatures. And they also have a front zipper to regulate the heat. Now again, I don't like to use down as an outer layer. I know they're fashionably stylish, but they're just too expensive for me to be hiking, taking a chance of tearing them, or sitting by a fire and getting little holes all over them. Now another thing that's great about this system, when it's bedtime, you don't have to put on any cold clothes. You have your bed clothes on you already. It's just underneath those outer layers. All you have to do is take off some layers. And you slide into that sleeping bag or top quilt. And you guys, you never go to bed cold because you got to heat up that sleeping bag or that top quilt. And being warm, you slide in there and it'll heat up that sleeping bag or that top quilt real quickly, and you'll be nice and warm for the rest of the night. Now this concludes this episode of how to stay warm in the wintertime. I have done other episodes like winter layering, insulation versus circulation, how to keep your hands or your feet warm, and also winter boots, which ones to buy. If you have any questions or comments, please write them down below. I'd love to hear from you. This is the Marine. Thank you for watching, and God bless.